Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy. What if your body was not listening? I'm not talking about your ears, I'm talking about your body. Fortunately, our bodies do listen all the time, and they listen to everything we do, what we think, what we eat, how we react to things. I'm Red Laughlin. I've been host here on Talking Heads for a while. In fact, I'm honored today to have two Talking Head shows. No, not today. Today is the beginning of a new show at a new time. So normally the show's at 1 o'clock. I'm a little perplexed here this morning, but it happens. It'll get over it very, very quickly. But today I'm talking about inflammation. It's one of those things that's a natural part of our body, but sometimes it gets out of control. But I've been with the USA Global TV and Radio Network now for probably about 5 years. If you're watching today on YouTube, please, if you have not subscribed already, please consider subscribing to the USA Global TV and Radio channel and the Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck channel. Really appreciate that a lot. It helps us out. But today I'm talking about inflammation. And what I'm talking about is not necessarily the fact that you have it. Your body is programmed biologically to do certain things. So when things do happen, inflammation becomes an issue. Sometimes it's good, and that's what we're going to talk about initially. But sometimes it's not so good, and that can become problems down the road. So let me go ahead and load up some slides here. Okay. So what's fueling your inflammation? Something has to actually happen to get inflammation going in your body. So I think what's important right here is the fact that there's a couple of words here: systems thinking approach and root cause. Okay, so I believe that if you treat a root cause, you'll probably fix a problem. But most of us treat symptoms. We don't treat the root cause because we don't know about it. You know, if you go to a doctor, you know, they're interested in diagnosing you and treating whatever you may happen to have, but they're not there to build health. And that's one of the approaches that I take, is I want to look at what's causing things to happen. What can we do about it? So if I'm looking at things, when I started out my career many years ago, as a naval officer, as an aviator, very much mission oriented. You know, this is a mission, go fly it, go do whatever. Things happen. Sometimes the aircraft's down, sometimes the mission changes, sometimes you abort, whatever it may happen to be, but it's to go do something. So if I were to leave you with something at least to reflect on today, what is your mission if you're looking at trying to improve your health? Well, I think inflammation is probably one of the top things to be aware of. Again, aware is probably a better word to choose, because when you start looking at things, and up until I wrote my book, Aging Sucks, which just came out last week, I was pretty much under the impression that inflammation at the cellular level in the body was the thing that caused disease. You had low-level cellular inflammation that was chronic. It was there all the time. It eventually caused DNA mutations, eventually caused other things to happen. But as I started really diving into it, looking at what really does cause disease, and there's roughly a dozen different causes, each at the molecular level, there's different ways of looking at things. So as I was writing the book, my first one, okay, my mission is this is what I want to do. But then I put on a different hat. As a chemist, I'm looking at the body, what's happening chemically in the body. And from an inflammation perspective, that's very, very critical. You know, you stub your toe on something, all of a sudden it starts to hurt a little bit. You yelp, you may go back, it may or may not be cut, you may or may not have a bruise, but things are happening chemically. You know, those first enzymes that get involved, and you have a arachidonic acid, you have other things. There's things there chemically that are happening. So I want to be able to know what those are. So that's a way of me looking at things and reporting it. But I've also spent years as a quality engineer, quality assurance management. And, is this true or not? Because sometimes you look things up, okay. If you depend on AI, you have to look at both sides of the equation. So I'm looking at both the cause and effect, but I want to make sure that what I'm talking about is true. But from a reliability engineering perspective, which I spent many years doing, I'm looking at failure. What causes things to fail? What can we do to plan to counter that failure? Or if the failure happens, what can I do to minimize the failure? And then I ended up in systems management, got a degree in that. And you're no longer looking at individual components. You're looking at the system. So if I'm looking at your digestive system, your nervous system, there are certain things that we're starting to look at a system-wide. So if I'm looking at inflammation, I'm looking really at the entire system of the body. And those are the things that are there. So you typically get, I use the example, stub your toe. Okay, you're gonna feel a little bit of pain, maybe hurt a little bit to walk on it, a little redness, a little soreness, a little heat, little things like that happen. And we'll cover a little bit more about that as we go down the road. But the whole thing is, there is something that happens and it gives you a clue. And if the clue, you're in your car, and let's go to the next slide here. Okay, there we go. If you're driving in your car and the engine light came on, you'd probably try to find a place to pull over and stop. I have a little device in my car that I can pull up on my phone. It tells me the code of what's happening in the car. Okay, but if not, I would go down to a local auto parts place. They would come out to the car, stick a little probe in there, and voila. Okay, 143. They go back inside, they look up code number 143, and it says, this thing is happening. But we don't get that with our bodies. Yeah, we may get the stub toe. You have a little bit of swelling. You have a little bit of pain. But what about the other inflammation that you don't have? Redness, swelling, pain, loss of functionality. That kind of stuff is happening all the time in the body. Now, the premise that I wrote Aging Sucks about is the fact that when your body can repair itself, so your repair capacity, your capability to repair damage is greater than your body's ability to damage itself, you're generally pretty healthy. But as we get older, we find out a lot of things are not working the way they used to. And we have a tendency, especially much later in life, it can happen early, but much later in life, the accumulation of damage gets to such a degree our body can't repair it. That's when we start seeing accelerated aging, wrinkles appearing earlier, gray hair, white hair, no hair. A lot of things are happening that is an aging process. But we also increase our risk of disease, and that becomes a major problem too, because those things are the things that we don't see right this minute that become a major problem down the road. So initially, if I'm looking at inflammation, what I'm talking about right now is acute inflammation. I'll cover that in just, I think, the next slide. But there's acute inflammation, which is normal. It's good. It helps us. But there's also chronic inflammation. But if I'm looking here at my stub toe, basically it's like damaged tissues that need repair. I could have an infection. I could have cold. I could have, most of us probably came down with COVID at one point in time. How many times have you cut yourself? It seems like nowadays I'm out there prepping vegetables in the kitchen. I'm going to guess twice in the last year, not paying very close attention, or the knife wasn't sharp enough and it goes off to the side and sliced a little bit of my finger. That happens. So when we have a cut, inflammation, our normal response for our autoimmune system says, go do this. And boom, 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 these things happen. Swelling occurs because it wants to isolate that area so that you don't have any other, pathogens, anything coming in there, dirt, anything that's going to come in there and mess up the recovery process. So that swelling is part of your normal response. So that is what's a necessary, yes, that's the way our body improves. If you're lifting muscles and you start having micro tears in your muscles, it's to get a stronger muscle. So you have a function that you have, I have damage from lifting weight. I have a repair mechanism that's going on. I get repaired. Now I have recovery because that that tear, that cut, has to be addressed a little bit more than just a simple repair because of oxidation. Then you have an adaptation phase. Then you have a growth phase. That growth phase is where you get stronger. So you're out there lifting weights. Maybe it's 100 pounds today. Next month it's 120 pounds. Whatever it is, you're seeing growth. You're seeing increased strength. That's because of inflammation, but it's acute inflammation. So if I want to look at the difference between acute is protective, it's appropriate, it's temporary, it's localized. You generally have a problem. There's something there that's causing your autoimmune system to respond. Now, when you have autoimmune diseases, different animal entirely. But generally speaking, you stub your toe, you cut yourself. That is the protective response of our body through our autoimmune system. However, there are a lot of causes of aging, and chronic inflammation happens to be one that there's 12 different causes according to the hallmarks of aging. And chronic inflammation is one, mitochondrial dysfunction is another. But each one doesn't happen, and so you don't end up with a single pathway that causes you to age. But what you do end up is this single pathway is going to branch off and it's going to knock this one off the edge and knock that one off. And all of a sudden you have 3 or 4 pathways being activated at one time. So this chronic inflammation is something that really becomes an issue. It's unnecessary because we have control over it. We're actually causing the damage, but we don't know it in most cases. And that damage can be persistent. It can last how many times have you had a cold that's over in 3 or 4 days? And other times you can't get over it in a month. Our bodies react in different ways, different times, depending on our immune system. But sometimes that persistence is in there, and sometimes we don't even know it. And then all of a sudden down the road, something, oh, I wish I had known about that earlier. I could have done something. But that systemic, chronic, long-term inflammation will actually activate other parts of your body. And I'll talk about that toward the very end in one of my slides. So if I were to look at this thing here just a little bit bigger than it is right now, I have a bunch of internal drivers and external drivers. And these internal drivers, insulin resistance, okay? I think most people can identify the fact that if you have insulin resistance, you probably put a little bit of weight on. You have inflammation caused by sugar, caused by carbohydrates, caused by a number of things. If I may have excess visceral fat, this is my fat around my organs and my gut, not the kind of fat that you need, but it's something that's there. It's something that's not too difficult to get rid of. But if you have that extra, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 inches around your gut, you probably have a lot of visceral fat. Probably be something if you're aware of it right now, might be something to go look at on YouTube or do a little research on or find out something, because it's a factor in your long-term health. Chronic inflammation, infections, autoimmune disorders, oxidative stress. Now, oxidative stress is one of those, it's like a bullet. Boom, it just hits right now. Oxidative stress at the low level in our mitochondria is something that's normal. It's there as part of our growth process. It's part of the breathing and respiration. But when it accelerates too much, now it becomes a problem. It's like when I equate everything to the normal curve, we've seen that bell-shaped curve, most of us earlier in our lives. Well, I consider there a center part of that I call it Goldilocks zone. Everything is fine, but if you have too little or too much, that becomes a problem. We may have some cellular debris in there. We're not cleaning our cells properly. We get old, the cells are not dying like the cells are programmed to die, but sometimes they don't. But those are all internal things to us. But if externally to us, we have smoking, we have pollution, we have a lot of different things. Let's see what here. Processed foods, stress, environmental toxins, lack of exercise, poor sleep. And if you kind of listen to those things, exercise, diet, stress, sleep, those are all things we control. These are daily lifestyle choices. Those are things that we do every single day. But sometimes they're outside the Goldilocks zone. And that's what we need to be aware of. And when I look at each one of these things, a lot of these, okay, so I'm not eating right today. Maybe I go pig out on something like that. Maybe I'm stressed out, I don't do anything. We have a habit that just does not seem to want to make things happen. Our habits become a problem because we don't know we're doing something bad and we don't appreciate it when we're doing something good. And I think that becomes part of the problem. So, recognizing the symptoms, signals. I mentioned earlier, you stub your toe. Okay, one of the first things that happen is pain. Okay, if you look down there, maybe the toe is swelling a little bit. Maybe in more cases, if it's swelling, it's probably red. If you reach down there and to touch it or put your hand over it, you probably feel a slight increase in temperature. And if the toe is stubbed well enough, you're probably going to hop around a little bit. So that's the visible signals that you're getting that inflammation is there. But that inflammation is the normal inflammation as a response. But if I look at what's happening from the other perspective, that chronic inflammation that really becomes a physiological problem down the road, now I have other things. Maybe I'm just not feeling well all the time. I don't have that energy. I have some brain fog. I'm just tired. I need to take a nap. I can't catch up. Don't feel like eating sometimes. Don't feel like exercising. Just if I have something happen, my toe is stubbed. Maybe it takes a lot longer to recover. Sometimes I get up, and of course, at my age, I get up and I have to stand and kind of stretch things out anyway. It's just part of that there. So, because you don't want to hurt something, so you get up in a hurry. I've had that happen before. So you end up with a little bit of joint stiffness. If you have insulin resistance, it'll probably get worse. But one of the biomarkers, I use it all the time on my annual physical, is what they call CRP. C-reactive protein is a molecule that our body creates when we have inflammation. And it's measurable. You get a blood test, boom, it says 0.2. Okay. You know exactly what your body's inflammation is. If it's not something you've ever done, write it down. That might be something to talk to your doctor about. Or a lot of the labs do the test now you don't need a doctor's permission to get that test done. But it gives you an immediate assessment of where your body is at from an inflammatory perspective. Generally speaking, most of the time I've had mine done, it's unmeasurable. It's below 0.25. But anything between 0 and 0.3 or 0.5, depending on a couple of factors, that's generally considered the safe region. But you start getting over that 0.5, no, not 0.5, between 0 and 3 or 0 and 5. I think 0 and 3 is for males, 0 and 5 for females. Okay, the joy of owning a dog. Things happen. Okay, the CRP, 0 to 3, you're healthy for males, 0 to 5 for females. You start getting over 5, you get 6, 10, 20, 30. That becomes a factor. That is something that you and your doctor probably really need to talk about, because a lot of the things we're talking today about what's causing inflammation, what's fueling that inflammation, these are things you need to know about. Typically speaking, it's going to be probably a food. It could be lack of exercise. It could be poor quality sleep. There's a lot of things that are there. Sometimes we end up eating a lot of fast food. They have a very high proportion of omega-6 fatty acids to omega-3. So a high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is another cause that can also be measured. Okay, let's see here. We're getting close enough to a commercial break that I think now is a good time to warn my producer that let's go ahead and go to a commercial break here in just a very brief moment.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Loughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, Just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
Earl Laughlin here again. And getting back to our slide program. Not too many slides today. I talked earlier about the chronic inflammation. That's that inflammation of the body that we don't see. We don't see the redness. We don't have loss of functionality. We don't have swelling. These are things that are just going on in our body because of the lifestyle choices that we've made. Poor sleep, not managing stress, eating the wrong things, not exercising. Those are things that are outside that Goldilocks zone. Too much of something or too little of something. So we want to be in that middle part of that bell-shaped curve. But when we're on either side, you end up with this chronic inflammation. And when it's persistent, it starts creating problems in other parts of the body. So I have an endothelial dysfunction, a mitochondrial dysfunction, insulin resistance, DNA damage, immune system dysregulation, dysbiosis, our gut is inflamed. I may have senescent cells. These are cells that won't die, that cause additional inflammation. I may have stem cells, part of my repair mechanism that is there to support me. They're just not being replenished the way they used to. So this persistent inflammation starts a minor cascade or a minor avalanche. And as it goes down, we have the ability to control and stop that. And so as we are making our daily decisions to what we do, how we eat, how well our sleep is, all of those things either cause damage or they support repair. And that's what we're going to be looking at a little bit more here. So if I were looking at just the issue of oxidative stress, I have inflammation. Generally speaking, the next level up for me, the way I look at things, is oxidative stress. Now you have let's say you have a bicycle outside, it sits there in the rain all winter long, and you get ready to start again in the spring and it has rust on it. Okay, that's oxidative reaction to the elements. Our bodies react the same way. As we have damage, our bodies repair it. Boom, boom, boom. Every second of every day, every cell in your body is under attack. And it goes in there and attacks your kidneys, your lungs, your brain. Everything is under attack, every cell. And some things have remarkable systems. Your DNA has about 5 or 6 different repair mechanisms that every time, boom, something happens to that DNA, it repairs itself. And so if I look at it from a bridge perspective, yeah, as I get older, I have a little bit more wear and tear. Things happen, but my body has the ability to repair it. But there's going to be a point in time, maybe I've equated this many people over time. You see your parents, you see friends, they get in their 70s or they get in their 80s, and they're generally pretty healthy. They may be a little slow. They may be, but their brain is good. They have the ability to do what they want. They can take a trip. They generally don't worry about much. But all of a sudden, they're at that level. They have something happen. It doesn't matter what it is. They have something happen. Maybe they fall and they break a leg. Maybe they catch a disease. It doesn't matter. Instead of being at what was their 100%, even if that 100% may be some other perspective of what they were 30 years ago, they were at 100% of their health. Now all of a sudden they're down to maybe 90%. But normally we get back up to that 100%. Well, somewhere in that, I mostly, if the people live into their 80s, I start seeing it happen somewhere in the early to mid 80s. And that downward slope, going down a stairwell, going down a slide, or going down a ladder, they can't get that next rung to come back up. So they're at 90% and they don't get any better. They're now 80% because something else happened. Now they're at 50% because something big happened. They don't have the repair capability to get back to that 100%. Well, if I look at it here on this bridge structure, I have the ability to repair things, which the upper bridge shows me. But when my body can't make that repair, I can't do what I need to do, the damage that's accumulating is going to be a major problem later in my life. I'm not going to be able to do the things I used to do. So it begins that cascade effect that we don't want. But I can control the stress to a certain degree, but I need to be able to make the right decisions. And that's sort of what we're talking about here today. And a couple more slides, I'll go over some of those things. Oh, looking at the same thing from a different perspective. It's a daily battle. It's a tug of war. It's a balancing act between damage and repair. When repair exceeds damage, you're healthy. When damage exceeds repair, now we start having a problem. And since we're talking about our body inside, we're talking about a system. We're not talking about just the gut, the brain, the lungs, the kidneys. We're talking about the entire body, because once one part of the body starts to become a problem, another part does. Your gut has a major connection to the brain. You know, your gut's called your second brain. You start having a lot of gut issues, you probably have a lot of brain issues. And the same could be true going the other direction too. So there's a lot of issues there that we want to maintain those repair systems as best we can, because that's going to bring us back into our baseline. So if I have one of the deals of health is being able to maintain stability. So if I start tipping one way or the other, I want to tip right back to be stable again. And so if I'm tipping either way, my body has the ability to make that adjustment to come back to being a stable person again, health-wise. So here's a view. What happens when we don't rebalance ourselves? What happens when I go down 2 rungs in the ladder and I can't get back up to the top? Well, let's just look at the inflammation. When I start having a chronic inflammatory effect in my body, it starts with, we call it a spiral or a feedback loop. The inflammation causes oxidative stress. Okay, that's normal. That can still be treated fairly well. But if that oxidative stress gets to a high enough level, something we can't feel, we end up damaging our mitochondria. Okay, our mitochondria is the power plant of our body. Everything that happens, everything we do depends on our mitochondria. I've said on many of my shows, you know, you have a happy mitochondria, you'll have a happy life. And so you end up with mitochondria, they're producing power, but because of the oxidative stress being as high as it is, they're damaged a little bit. I'm not getting 100% of my power. Just like I'm going down 2 rungs on the ladder, my mitochondria energy production is going down 2 rungs on its ladder. It's not producing at 100%. So I have less energy. My repair capability is diminished a bit. Initially, incrementally, can be repaired with proper things. But as my repair capability is challenged, I can't make the damage whole again. I end up with more inflammation. So my more inflammation adds to the inflammation I started with. So I got inflammation, oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, lower energy, poor repair, back to more inflammation. So I get this thing that just keeps building and building and building. And finally, it starts a cascade effect that really starts moving across not only the pathway of chronic inflammation that causes aging, but other pathways of aging too that are controllable, but all of a sudden they get out of whack. You look at YouTube, you look at TV, you look at different things. They say, "Oh, here's the top." If you have brain fog, here's this. You want a little long life. Here's a longevity deal. You want better eyesight. Here's this. They have supplements for everything in the world, and I'm not a disbeliever in supplements. Some of them are good. Most of them have a problem. You end up with the wrong component in there. You look at take vitamin E. E is an echo. There's 8 different components to vitamin E. When you get a pill, there's usually only one that's synthetic, and so it's I'm going to say worthless, because that synthetic vitamin E really doesn't help. If it says vitamin B12, B12 doesn't survive stomach acid. So if you're not taking B12 under your tongue, you're not getting the benefit of that B12. Calcium, you generally put in. Sorry, a little technical problem there. Getting back to the real world. So Some supplements will probably work for you, but it's better to get this, what you really need directly from your food. So if I'm trying to break inflammation, I need to do something. And what is that something that I'm trying to do? Well, better quality sleep. Your body repairs itself when you're sleeping. If you're not getting good sleep, that becomes a problem down the road because you're not allowing the sufficient time for your body to repair. Exercise. I used to exercise all the time. It was not uncommon to go run 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 miles and not think anything of it just because I could. But exercise, what it does is it causes your cells to create new mitochondria. So let's say you have 100 mitochondria. It's kind of a low number. Let's say you have 100 mitochondria in a cell. It's producing power. I go out and I exercise. A month later, maybe I have 110. I'm being very cautious on this. 110. I continue exercising. A few months later, maybe I have 150. Okay, I have a lot more energy going on because I have that exercise that created these additional mitochondria all throughout my entire body. So now I'm having a very easy time generating the energy I need to fight that brain fog, to fight that fatigue, to fight a lot of things that are going on. So you're thinking, I'm tired, I can't exercise. Well, maybe the solution is exercising so you're not feeling tired. It's kind of a weird way of thinking. Eating the right kinds of foods. If you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, you're eating a lot of omega-6 fatty acids, those are things that are detrimental. If you're missing vitamin B12, if you're on a vegan diet, that's something you probably really want to pay attention to because that's one that you only get from meat. So you probably really do need to supplement that. Are you maintaining a healthy weight? These are all lifestyle choices that you have that you can make decisions on. Controlling your blood sugar, the ability to manage your stress. I was stressed out at the beginning of the show, so I'm back there with the production engineer, and I'm trying to reduce a little bit of stress by laughing. Laughing is a great stress reducer. Smiling is another immediate stress reducer. Never been a smoker, but some people are. Avoid smoking, but you can put alcohol in that same category. Many times, a lot of us, that one glass of wine or whatever is fine, but it doesn't end with one. That one beer doesn't end with one beer. Toxin exposure, that's essentially getting the right kinds of foods that you need, organic or whatever, because you start getting stuff with a lot of hormones in it, a lot of extra coloring, a lot of things there, but you can look at the labels, read them, make some good sense. Oral health, socially engaged, all those things are very, very critical. So as I'm looking at things and starting to wrap the show up today, the goal isn't to eliminate inflammation because that's just a normal part of the body. Now, if we're looking at chronic inflammation, that is a different animal. So we're looking at acute and we're looking at chronic. Acute happens because we live. That's just our normal biological programming. And our body makes the repairs, we adapt, we get stronger, and we go on. However, the things that we don't feel, hear, etc., that is the part that we really need to pay attention to, because that is the way that we can remove that fuel that stops the inflammation from being there. So if I can fight the symptom, in this particular case, the symptom is the fatigue and the brain fog and the other things that I really just kind of see as a side effect of getting older. That inflammation can be controlled. It's not going to activate anything else that's out there in our world. And I started having a much better life. And click here a little bit early, last slide. So if I'm looking at my biology, I said at the beginning of the meeting, what if your body wasn't listening to you? But the thing is, your body's always listening. You put a hamburger in your mouth, you eat it. Your body is listening to what's happening. If you're deciding not to go walking, not to run, not to go to the gym, not to exercise, your body is listening. If you're stressed out because of mother-in-law, relations, kids, job, weather, and you're not doing something to relieve, to manage that stress, your body is listening. And that biological program is going to activate and it's going to do certain things. And some of the things that happen is it's going to create damage. Well, your body's going to respond because it can. That's the biological response. So I have a physiological thing that's going on no matter what I do. It's either going to be repair or it's going to be damage. But I also have the ability to plan and make my life better. And that's part of what today is about, to reflect on what is going on. What habits do you have already that could actually be tweaked a little bit to make them better than they are? And so in my book, Aging Sucks, I go through each one of these individual causes of aging, these hallmarks of health. And then I talk about, okay, what's causing that? Can you recognize it? What works to counter that particular cause? Because that's part of our awareness, part of our education, so that when we get to fighting inflammation that we can't feel or see, because we're pretty healthy, but I want to maintain a better health than what I have. So that is what I'm looking for. If I can maintain that, I'm a happy camper. And with that, I am going to say, let's go ahead and conclude today's presentation. And I will have my next show is called the Corner Bookstore. And I actually have a Major General today called, and I'm looking forward to that. He has a problem. He had a problem with mental illness and blank. That happens sometimes. And then my last show today is The Wise Ones, and I'll be talking about success, and particularly success in your health. So Red O'Loughlin signing off, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, y'all. Bye now.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Loughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
My Tummy Hurts by Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Meet Jackie. She loves recess, running with friends, and laughing on the playground. At school, Jackie tries to play like she always does, but suddenly the pain comes back. Lately, something feels different and her tummy hurts, sometimes a little and sometimes a lot. With the help of a caring teacher, a nurse, her mom, and a kind doctor, Jackie begins to understand what her body is trying to tell her. Sometimes tummy pain is more than a simple bellyache. Some children live with conditions like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Jackie listens to her body. She asks for help. She knows she's not alone. And Jackie finds her way back to running, laughing, and being herself. My Tummy Hurts, a kid's guide to bellyaches and bathroom troubles by Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, available on Amazon and in fine bookstores around the world. People are searching for experts every day. Are they finding you, or are they finding someone else? Every day, professionals are building authority through media. We've already built the platform. USA Global TV and Radio. Over 14,000 shows streamed to over 60 countries. This isn't about becoming famous. It's about leverage, visibility, credibility, opportunity. One interview, one conversation, one show, repurposed into content, connection, and business growth. Most people assume hosting a TV show requires a studio, a production team, and a massive budget. Our television packages begin at $1,500 US per month. Professional production, global distribution, replay visibility, built for voices with something to say. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and if this resonates with you, we should talk. USA Global TV and Radio, all rights reserved. Contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com.
In a quiet seaside town in Greece, where sunlight warms the stone paths and the sea whispers nearby, a new adventure begins. Lady Ella and her brother Lord Jack have arrived with an important mission: to teach kindness, patience, and the power of listening. In a hidden alley, a group of forgotten cats feel unseen and unheard, lost in silence and growing misunderstandings, until someone finally takes the time to truly listen. Because when we listen from the heart, loneliness softens, kindness grows, and new friendships begin. This is Book 10 of The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor book series. Find all Dr. Kerbeck's books on Amazon and in fine bookstores worldwide.
How much of your value have you been giving away? Saying yes when the answer should have been no? Lowering your price to secure the opportunity? Giving more while receiving less? Over time, it adds up. Until one moment brings clarity, you've been giving away your value. This is not about working harder. This is not about doing more. It's about boundaries. It's about pricing. It's about respect. From Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck comes a direct and necessary message. Stop over-delivering. Stop underpricing your expertise. Stop negotiating against yourself. Because when you recognize your value, everything changes. Stop giving away your value. Boundaries, pricing, and the business of respect. Available now wherever fine books are sold and on Amazon. A film by USA Global TV and Radio. Executive producer Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Videographer and cinematic production Paul Garcia. Voiceover by Ed Wargas. Stop giving it away. Start owning it.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.